All right, another global news. Russian airstrikes on Ukraine's capital, Kiev, killed at least 14, including a U.S. citizen.
February 12, 2025. A U.S. Air Force F-35 Lightning II is on a routine patrol over the icy expanses of Greenland when, without warning, a Russian MiG-31 Foxhound locks on. Seconds later, a missile streaks through the sky, and the $100 million American jet is reduced to a fireball. Russia has just shot down a U.S. fighter jet in international airspace, a brazen act that sends shockwaves around the world. But what Moscow didn't expect was the fallout. Today, we're diving into this explosive incident, why it happened, and why Russia instantly regretted it. This is a story of high-tech warfare, geopolitical brinkmanship, and a miscalculation that could change everything. Let's get into it. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're into military aviation, global conflicts, or just want to know how a single shot in the Arctic could push the world to the edge, you're in the right place. We're breaking down the shocking moment Russia shot down a U.S. F-35 over Greenland, the technology behind it, the international firestorm that followed, and why Moscow's bold move backfired spectacularly. Stick around, because this is a wild ride. Let's start with what went down. It's a freezing morning over Greenland, a Danish territory strategically located between North America and Russia. A U.S. Air Force F-35, part of NATO's Arctic patrol mission, is cruising at 40,000 feet, monitoring Russian military activity in the region. Greenland's airspace is critical, home to Thule Air Base, a key U.S. radar and missile defense site. Suddenly, a Russian MiG-31 Foxhound, operating from a base in Murmansk, enters the area. Without warning, it fires an R-37M air-to-air missile, one of the longest-range weapons in Russia's arsenal. The F-35's pilot, Captain Sarah "Hawk" Mitchell, has just seconds to react. She deploys flares and dives, but it's too late. The missile strikes, and the jet plummets into the icy waters below. The Pentagon confirmed the incident within hours, releasing a statement that a U.S. F-35 was engaged and destroyed by a Russian fighter jet in international airspace. Captain Mitchell ejected, but her fate remains unclear. Rescue teams are battling Greenland's brutal conditions to find her. This wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate act, and it marked the first time since the Cold War that Russia directly shot down a U.S. military aircraft. But why would Russia take such a reckless gamble? Let's dive into the motives. To understand Russia's motives, we need to look at the bigger picture. The Arctic is heating up, figuratively and literally. It's a treasure trove of untapped oil, gas, and shipping routes, and Russia's been flexing its muscle there for years. Greenland, with its proximity to Russia's Kola Peninsula bases, is a strategic hotspot. Russia's Arctic Command has ramped up patrols, with MiG-31s and Su-35s regularly probing NATO defenses. But this incident wasn't just about territory, it was about sending a message. Russia's been under pressure. The war in Ukraine drags on, sanctions are biting, and NATO's expanding its Arctic presence. Just weeks before the incident, the U.S. deployed B-21 Raider stealth bombers to Thule Air Base, a move Moscow called provocative. Add to that joint U.S.-Canadian exercises in the region, and Russia's feeling cornered. Shooting down an F-35 was a way to say, we're still a superpower and we're not backing down. But what Moscow didn't count on was the F-35's black box and the consequences it unleashed. Let's talk tech, because this clash was a showdown of cutting-edge machines. The F-35 Lightning II is a fifth-generation stealth fighter, a $100 million flying supercomputer. Its radar-absorbing skin and internal weapons bays make it nearly invisible to enemy radar. With 6 cameras and a $400,000 helmet, the pilot has 360-degree situational awareness, fed by sensor fusion that tracks threats in real time. It's designed to dominate, carrying AIM-120 AMRAAM missiles and precision bombs. But the Russian MiG-31 Foxhound is no pushover. Built in the 1980s, it's one of the fastest jets in service, hitting Mach 2.83, or 1,860 miles per hour. Its Zaslon M radar can detect targets 200 miles away, and the R-37M missile it fired has a range of up to 250 miles. The MiG-31 was designed to intercept high-speed threats like the SR-71 Blackbird, and it's still a beast in Russia's arsenal. So how did it catch an F-35 off guard? Experts believe the Russian jet used a nearby ground radar station to guide the missile, bypassing the F-35's stealth. It was a rare victory for Russia's aging tech, but it came at a steep price. Within hours, the world erupted. The Pentagon called the attack an act of aggression, demanding answers from Moscow. NATO convened an emergency meeting with Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, warning that such actions risk catastrophic escalation. The U.S. deployed 2 carrier strike groups, led by the USS Gerald R. Ford, to the North Atlantic, while F-22 Raptors were scrambled to Greenland. Allies like the UK and Canada pledged support, with British Typhoons joining Arctic patrols. Russia's response? Defiant but shaky. The Kremlin claimed the F-35 was violating Russian airspace, a claim debunked by GPS data showing the jet was 50 miles from Russia's border. President Putin doubled down, saying the US was provoking conflict with its Arctic buildup. But cracks appeared. Russian state media, usually quick to celebrate military wins, was oddly silent. Why? Because the F-35's black box, recovered by a U.S. Navy submersible, told a different story. The F-35's black box was a game changer. It recorded every second of the engagement, from the MiG-31's radar lock to the missile's launch. The data proved the F-35 was in international airspace following NATO protocols. Even more damning? The black box captured Russian radio chatter, revealing the MiG-31 pilot acted on direct orders from a senior commander. This wasn't a rogue act. It was a Kremlin-sanctioned strike. The U.S. shared this evidence with the United Nations, turning the tables on Russia. Suddenly, Moscow was on the defensive. China, Russia's key ally, issued a vague call for restraint, avoiding outright support. Even Belarus, a loyal partner, stayed quiet. The black box didn't just expose Russia's lie, it exposed their vulnerability. And that's when the real regret kicked in. Russia's gamble backfired in 3 big ways. First, economically. The US and EU slapped new sanctions on Russia's energy and banking sectors, targeting Gazprom and Sberbank. Oil prices spiked, but Russia's exports tanked as buyers like India and Turkey pulled back. The ruble dropped 15% in a week, sparking panic in Moscow. Second, militarily. NATO fast-tracked Sweden and Finland's Arctic defense plans, deploying Patriot missile systems to Greenland. The U.S. also greenlit $10 billion in new aid to Ukraine, including ATACMS missiles, which hit Russian bases in Crimea days later. Third, diplomatically. Russia's actions alienated neutral nations. Brazil and South Africa, part of the BRICS bloc, criticized the attack as reckless. At the UN, a resolution condemning Russia passed 120-15, with even some allies abstaining. Moscow's attempt to flex its power instead exposed its isolation. And then there's the Arctic. Russia's bases in the region are now under constant NATO surveillance, with US drones and submarines tracking every move. Shooting down the F-35 was meant to show strength, but it left Russia weaker than ever. One question lingers. What happened to Captain Sarah Mitchell? Search teams found her ejection seat in Greenland's coastal waters, but as of February 20th, 2025, she's still missing. Her story gripped the world. Mitchell, a 32-year-old Texas native, was a decorated pilot with 1,500 flight hours. Vigils sprang up across the U.S., and number Find Hawk trended globally. The uncertainty fueled public anger, with protests outside Russian embassies from London to Tokyo. Mitchell's fate became a rallying cry. If she's alive, Russia faces pressure to assist in her recovery. If not, the incident could become a symbol of Moscow's aggression, galvanizing NATO like never before. Either way, Russia's decision to pull the trigger has turned a single jet into a global flashpoint. So, where do we go from here? The U.S. has vowed consequences, with President Insert Name promising a measured but firm response. Options range from cyber attacks on Russian infrastructure to seizing Russian assets abroad. NATO's planning new exercises in the Arctic, while Russia's deployed S-400 systems to its northern bases. Both sides are posturing, but neither wants all-out war, especially in a region as unforgiving as Greenland. The scary part? This could happen again. Russia's Arctic ambitions aren't going away, and NATO's not backing down. A single miscalculation, like the F-35 shootdown, could spiral into something bigger. For now, the world's watching, waiting to see if diplomacy can cool things down or if we're headed for a new Cold War. Russia's decision to shoot down a US F-35 over Greenland was meant to project power, but it backfired spectacularly. The black box exposed their lie, sanctions crippled their economy, and NATO's response left them cornered. Captain Mitchell's fate remains a haunting question, and the Arctic is now a powder keg. This wasn't just a military misstep, it was a wake-up call for the world. What do you think? Was Russia's move a bold stand or a catastrophic error? And what should the US do next? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let me know if you want more on this escalating crisis. If you found this video gripping, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more military deep dives. Thanks for watching, and keep your eyes on the skies. Thanks for joining us. If you're hooked on military aviation, geopolitics, or the tech behind modern warfare, subscribe and turn on notifications. See you in the next one.